There's a $10 trillion ticking time bomb sitting inside the financial system, and almost nobody is talking about it. Unless you've been here on this channel, and we've covered it lots of times, it's the reverse carry trade. And when it blows up, we're going to need something that doesn't exist in the current banking system. And that's where I think XRP might step in. This is about financial infrastructure, systemic risk, and why Japan, XRP, and the digital yen might be the only thing standing between global liquidity and a global crisis. Okay, so if you haven't been here before, we're going to go ahead and go over what the reverse carry trade is. For decades, global institutions have been borrowing cheap yen at close to zero interest rates to buy higher yielding assets in dollars, euros, and other emerging markets. So they would borrow that yen from the Bank of Japan, swap it through FX to whatever currency they wanted, and then go put that to work, earning much higher returns. And then they owe 0% to the Bank of Japan. It's free money. And that is what the reverse carry trade is. It's close to $10 trillion in exposure. When rates shift or FX volatility spikes, these positions are going to unwind fast. Investors will have to sell off their foreign assets and rush to buy back the yen. So they'll have to sell in the stock market or gold or wherever else they're positioned, swap back to whatever the currency it was in whatever jurisdiction they purchased it, and then go back through FX to yen before they can repay those notes. So this slams the FX market, the bond market, and credit globally, all at once. So what's going to happen? It's not good, right? It's a tidal wave of capital surging back to Japan. Dollars, euros, and all of the other currencies that people are selling off to swap for the yen crash, and the yen will explode higher. Demand for the yen will be excessive. So US treasuries, they're going to be dumped. Yields are going to spike, and bond markets will break. Global liquidity will evaporate, just like in March of 2020, but much, much worse. The Bank of Japan will have two options. They can either let the yen appreciate and kill their exports, or they can defend the bond market and risk hyperinflation because they're going to have to print a bunch of yen in order to buy those bonds. It's a lose-lose situation, unless they have a third option sitting in the background. So this is where I think XRP might be the missing piece. So instead of dumping foreign assets directly into the yen, flows could be routed from, let's say, US dollars through XRP and then into the Japanese yen. XRP would serve as a liquidity buffer, routing flows around the FX bottlenecks. Settles in 3 seconds, doesn't require correspondent banking, and it could scale globally if price and infrastructure allow it. So let's get into what would actually need to take place for this to happen. You got SBI and the Bank of Japan. They would have to have strategic alignment. Now we know SBI is Japan's largest and most aggressive fintech institution, and they own part of Ripple. So they operate SBI VC trading, and they also use XRP for live FX remittance. The Bank of Japan is developing SCBDC, which has been in pilot since late 2023, maybe 24. And this would allow them to program the stability of the bond market. But they would definitely need a playbook for this. You'd have to route FX through XRP. You'd have to be able to issue or go live with that digital yen. You'd have to offer yield or rewards for people holding the bonds, and then absorb capital inflows without destabilizing the yen or bonds. Okay, so this is a tricky dance. It's not like it's an easy thing to do, but if you had a liquidity buffer like XRP that could expand and contract to be able to mitigate this risk and volatility, it's going to be much easier to handle this situation when it happens. So how could this work? Like, XRP needs to have a couple things happen. For $5 to $10 trillion to be repatriated into the yen, you couldn't use traditional FX markets. They would break. You need XRP liquidity pools large enough to absorb and route those flows. So let's do some math. To absorb $10 trillion in 30 days with about 5.5 billion XRP, and if that was turned over 10 times daily, XRP would need to be around $180 per token. This is a mathematical inevitability if it's going to serve in this purpose. The world doesn't need XRP height, it needs XRP liquidity for when this is going to happen. So let's break it down. What are all the things that actually have to happen for SBI, the Bank of Japan, and the rest of the world for this to take place? The Bank of Japan would have to authorize XRP in FX settlement systems. Okay, and we know that they've been building that in the background with Ripple for a long time, so probably in place. SBI needs to build deep liquidity pools between the yen and XRP and USD XRP corridors using RippleNet or the AMMs on the XRPL, which were put out a while back with XLS30. So it's possible. You would also need regulatory clarity in Japan for XRP. It would need to be approved as a settlement asset and also not have capital gains if it's being used in that capacity. You would need CBDC rails to go live with programmable yield to absorb the bond flows. And again, we know that that's been in pilot for a long time, so likely they probably have that in place. You would also need global partners to mirror those corridors for all of the currencies that we're going to be swapping back to the yen. So that's the US, it's euros, and any other jurisdiction where people have borrowed yen to be able to put it into financial markets. And then last, XRP liquidity would need to be locked, incentivized, and scalable. So we need a significantly higher price for XRP for it to be able to facilitate this. And again, there's a lot of ways that could happen, but you need a supply shock on the asset. If we don't have something like this in place and $10 trillion unwind, you have a credit collapse. You have FX disorder, and you have central banks out of tools to fix this problem. So XRP is perfectly positioned for this. It's neutral, it's fast, it's ready, but it needs the adoption, liquidity, and price to fit this purpose. And again, this is not speculation. This is about the infrastructure. So SBI and the Bank of Japan have the pieces. Question is, will they move in time? XRP, it's potentially providing liquidity and a buffer when there is volatility and global crisis. And if Bank of Japan moves first, XRP won't just bridge currencies. It could be the bridge that pulls us out of the next global financial crisis. So hopefully this has been valuable for you. If you have enjoyed it, please let me know what you think in the comments below. Like, subscribe, and we'll see you guys on the next one.